Pity the fool, I'm fooling ones with my intelligence. What's the policy of the mind, body, soul? Overcome with the oblivion. And my words play like an anthem, and the truth will expose the intuition of the soul. Deep dark thoughts you will never know. I scogitate the intentions of the minority that I meditate.
Hey you guys, welcome back to the Scholar Social. My name is Jonah Ruffin.
I'm Zayla Bryant.
I'm Dea Brown.
I'm Sanaa Edwards.
And I'm Jayla Jackson.
And y'all, today is the first episode of season 2. Yes, sir. How y'all feeling?
Back. I'm feeling good. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
New season.
Yes, it's the first of the month. Yes. All my Cardi fans got that reference.
So, what are we talking about today?
So, the theme for today, our head of content approved this idea for me. So to give context, we were in the car and we were driving from an event, and I just popped my head up from the back seat and I was like, y'all, isn't it crazy how whenever you're listing achievements, right, now it's considered bragging. But if I were to sit and, talk to people about all the times that I failed or all the times things aren't going right, it would be a powwow. But if I were to sit here and talk about my, accomplishments, 5 out of 10 people listening would be turned off.
Right.
So I wanted to discuss what is the difference between bragging and between, being proud of yourself and being confident. And this is actually something that a lot of you all have told us to speak on.
Right.
So,
this is so necessary and interesting. So let's talk about it.
A lot of people's problem with this cockiness versus confidence when it comes to your achievements is their perception of what does this mean? Like, why are you saying this? So the problem that we're having here is between perception and intention.
Right.
So do you guys think that it's a problem of perception or a problem of intention?
Well, in my opinion, I think that intention is the most important here, because if you have an intent of, say for instance, you just got a new car and you go to your friend and you're like, oh, I just got a new car, I'm so happy, and your intention is to legit just be like, hey, I got a new car, and you're not really thinking, oh, I'm gonna be cocky or I'm gonna talk down, and then the person perceives it as cockiness, that isn't your fault, because you can't control how people perceive things. You can only control your intention. You can only control yourself. So if your intention is pure and somebody perceives that as cocky, you can do nothing about that.
But
So
I
would
have to disagree, Jonah, only because we can infer how people typically perceive things. I think we can at least say, as humans, these are how these actions are typically perceived. Right? So if my natural inclination is to act in a way that most people are saying you act cocky, if that's my constant feedback, even if that's not your intention, I think that now it is your duty to address the way in which you act. Because there's tons of things that we can do that's not our intention, that's constantly perceived that way. Like, I have been somebody where I have been told that I was cocky a lot. In middle school, that was constantly the feedback. Even though that was not my intention, that's how I was walking into spaces. So I think that intention does matter. If you are intending to make somebody feel bad, time to address that. But perception does go a long way.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Jayla said. Also, if taking the car example, if somebody comes up to a group of people and talking about the car and the majority of the people see it as cocky, then I think that, it's a general consensus, so sorry, that you're being cocky. But if I'm just the one person, everybody else sees it as a celebration, they're just trying to tell me, then maybe I need to work on my perception.
But my question
I'm trying to figure out which way I lean, though.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I'm looking at the perception and I'm looking at the intention. I really have to base it on the personality of the person. Because I know when I have conversations with friends, I kind of know them a little bit better. I know how they act. Like, it was somebody from kindergarten, somebody from kindergarten who I always knew had something, against me. And it was just like a,
like the energy.
The energy.
Yeah, I get what you're talking
so
about.
it's I really had to base it upon the personality of the person.
Okay, so that leads me to my next question then. Do you guys think that this idea of it being a cocky thing, it comes from a source of insecurity? Or do you guys think that this is honestly just a pure thing that people are like, oh, I have a car. You have a nice car.
Okay.
I think it goes both ways.
Go ahead, yeah.
I think it goes both ways on the perception and the intention side. It can go from the person who is deemed as the person bragging, but it also could be on the side of the person who is perceiving it and receiving it. Because if you have insecurities about it and you're insecure about the car you have or the clothes you have, you might take somebody sharing about the new car that they have as cockiness, but really you're just insecure about what you
Right. And to go off of what Sanai said, like, that's why I feel as if intention is more important, because that's a perfect example of why perception is so hard to like gauge and like cater to, because every single person has their own sense of insecurities, their own sense of things that they've been through. So what might not be cocky to one person is cocky to another person. So you can never be perfect enough. So I feel like your intention is the purest thing that you can control. You can control how you feel about certain things.
To go to that insecurity standpoint, I think that in this sense, if we're still talking about success, I think success fills the holes of insecurity. So, like, a lot of the times when someone has this big car and they want to show it off, you know, when they were younger, they didn't have it. You know, their mother only had one car, and they were trying to get their siblings to and from every place. You know, I know many people who are in occupations where, like, such as a lawyer. I know many lawyers who are lawyers because they were done wrong by the system. So it's like these small things of, like, success, I feel like are become a necessity for wanting to heal your insecurity.
But I feel like now we've hit a fork in the road. Because if you are, like Jonah said, genuinely trying to celebrate yourself, right? Because I think this is a trend that I see in the Black community a lot.
Yes, I was going there. Let's go,
when a Black person hits a certain level of success, and it's like, I want to celebrate with people. I feel like it's just horrible for the person with the success saying, like, I'm not going to share because I know how it's going to be received. Because you worked your butt off. You deserve to be celebrated. So it's like, at what point do you stop celebrating yourself to make others feel okay? Because if y'all don't feel some type of way anyway.
We ready to go down this road, though?
But on top of that,
let's
I
go.
don't think the problem is just the celebrating, but it's just celebrating with certain people. Like, I can celebrate myself in my room peacefully, but then it's just like, what is this?
It's not giving.
Right. But
I want to go out.
Outside, slander. You know why? Because people that were in my situation before, they're still there while I'm up.
Literally.
So guess what? They are projecting, like Sanaa was saying, and it's just making it very hard for me to grow in a space where everyone around me has it.
And that's like such a toxic mindset that the Black community has. Like, if you're gonna put down a Black person for celebrating their accomplishments, that's gonna make nobody ever want to, like, you know, continue to do that. That's so bad.
But my dad just read me an Instagram. I'll pass it to you. He just read me an Instagram post saying that people will wish you the world and they hate you when you get it.
Literally.
Yes.
Like, what do you want, my dude? What do you want?
That's
like, that's the problem with it. I mean, I love the Black community, y'all. But, like, one thing that I've noticed, like, Black businesses, a lot of Black people do not support Black businesses. They hate the hospitality. They hate what they're providing. And I'm like, yo, what do you want? So it becomes this thing where, like, we preach the Black community. Let's, you know, come together as a one. Let's build this empire. How we gonna do it? How we gonna do it, Louis? But at the same time, like, it's becoming a burdensome. And so that's what I've been noticing when you mention that Black community in terms of, you know, this conversation of arrogance and when to praise yourself. Right.
And to, like, bring it back to, like, the whole cocky situation, I think that's a great example. And, like, back to what you were saying, like, with they wish you the world until you get it. And I feel like but I also want to talk about, like, the side of the when you said when it's not, like, a good thing. When it's not a good thing.
Yeah, because I was going to say that, because there is a situation where you start doing well and you start feeling yourself.
You do.
You know, so I want to go on the line and talk about, you know, how do you check yourself in instances like that? You know, what breaks you from that mindset, or what, you know, kind of wakes you up, and then what's the process of getting back?
I mean, definitely taking it off of Jayla's point, when she was saying in middle school, the feedback was a lot that she was cocky. I think you should take feedback from people that love you. Of course, you know, people are going to give you feedback of you're cocky, people who might not love you, might not want to see your success are going to give you feedback all the time. But it's really the feedback from people who love you and want to see you grow. They're saying you're cocky, you might need to work on that. Yeah. And I think if you're taking that advice and taking that feedback, you're making the right steps.
Right, definitely.
What do you think, Sarah?
What do I think?
Yeah.
I think Sanaa was right. Really taking the feedback of the people that you love. And then on top of that, I think we can just, if you can ask yourself the question, is the problem my intention when I'm saying this, or is the problem how people are seeing it? Because I know a lot of people will see it differently, and those people are haters. I'm sorry. But when you are cocky, you gotta check why I even told you in the first place, especially who you're telling to.
And you know what that is? Intention. That is intention.
Yes.
So like I said, that's exactly why intention is
But
the comment here.
Because I can say my intention in saying it could be I want to celebrate and be celebrated with those that I love.
Right.
But the way in which I say it could rub somebody the wrong way.
Yeah.
Now my intentions could be pure,
Right.
but just my natural inclinations as far as how I present now is creating that effect.
Right.
So your intentions could be wonderful,
Right.
but now we got to look at packaging, which plays a role in it.
So my question then is, if your intention is pure and other people are perceiving it as cocky, what do you change? Like, how do you go about that differently?
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna talk about the need for community, because what I'm hearing is, and what I'm finding is that if how you are naturally is being perceived by cocky, like you talking about, I can't, really grow in a space where nobody else around me has grown.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. Like as you elevate, your space has to elevate also, because if now you're too big in a way to fit into the rooms that you were in previously,
Right.
it's time
that
for
becomes
an
a
upgrade.
problem.
In mindset, in
Yeah.
energy, like it's time to go. So
Exactly.
what would fly in your community before can't
That's what
fly
I'm saying.
anymore
Like
when you're
my
in a different
celebrations
space.
in this community is your celebrations too. Like when
Right.
I think of success, it's a domino effect.
Right, but I think that there's also like a negative side to that, because this is crazy. I was just talking to my friend's auntie about this, and it was like kind of like
Okay, auntie. Hey, auntie.
right, hey, auntie. But she was saying like when you kind of like boss up, or when you like gradually get more
Right.
accomplished, and
Yeah.
that your community starts to change. But it's like those people that you were with when you weren't so like big or accomplished, they start to feel like, oh, he or she is
Hollywood.
leaving us in the dark. Right, they're Hollywood. But it's like, no, I'm just like finding the right group for me, because if I was to stay you guys as friends, I would not be
It's not
progressive.
helping anybody.
Right. So I feel like that's also an issue, because that's then perceived as, oh, they're being cocky. Oh, they're moving
Okay.
on. They're like not,
Okay, now I have another question. When you're being told you're cocky,
Mhm.
obviously they're telling you be humble, sit down. When do you take that advice? Like what? Okay, I want to ask you personally, because I know you talked about this with your experience. So what triggered you to change, and how did that process go for you?
And it's great. We've had this experience before.
Mhm.
It was a period in where I was put in a situation that I was not used to, right? And it caused me to flare up. And so Zayla didn't want to say anything. Luckily, I had to catch myself. But for me, it became a matter of I can feel it.
Mhm.
I can feel it in my everyday regimen is one way. So when I start acting out of character, it impacts everything. It's like a domino effect, right? So if my mindset is I'm humble and I'm doing this for the community, you see it in my actions.
Right.
So as soon as my mind shifts from this is no longer about the community, this is about myself, or I'm feeling myself, now my actions shift. The way in which I do things have now changed. So it's all about grounding. I think the big thing in this, if your foundations are built upon this is not about me, your actions will show that. So as soon as you make that shift, it's not going to take long for you to check your actions, because it's going to change.
Right.
I love that, because what you just said, it's like, I didn't realize it before, but it's a symbiotic relationship between your community and yourself.
Yeah.
Where
Right.
it's constantly, there's like a balance going on between my ego and what you are to me as well. Because when there's a shift or imbalance in importance, or how much I contribute to you or how much you contribute to me, that's when it starts to go haywire.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Right. And I think that also, like, how do you fix that? I want to talk about more, like, in real time. Like, say, for instance, we were having a conversation right now, and I was like, hey, Jayla, that was kind of cocky. Like, then what do you do? Like, in that moment, what do you do? I feel like there's only so much you could do. One, you could probably apologize, like, hey, I'm sorry, that wasn't my intention to, like, come off as cocky. Or you could be like, what made you feel like I was being cocky? Because I feel like getting that feedback is what's going to make you able to change.
That's always my approach. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I meant to answer that question. I think with what makes somebody cocky, one thing for me is context and tone. Well, two things.
Yeah.
Context and tone. One, if you're coming, oh yeah, and you're trying to belittle me, I think you're cocky. But also context. If we're talking about food, and you just randomly start listing off your accomplishments, like, yay, good job.
Round of applause.
Food. What about anybody else?
I think for me, it's what Jonah said. I always do this. If somebody's coming to me with feedback and that was not my intention, if I know that's my intention, now it's like, okay, thank you for checking me. But if I know that wasn't my intention, okay, now I need you, and this comes around to the people who are around you, because now I need you to give me real-time examples. Like, you did this with your body, or you did this with your voice inflection. Like, I need specific directions as to how that made you feel that way. And the problem is, most people cannot give you that.
Yeah.
Right, but
But why?
I have a quote for that. Wait.
Go ahead.
And my
Go ahead.
experiences, most people cannot give me that. They be like, I'm just.
Jayla, we got to take into account who you are too.
Yeah.
Because
Wait.
if you argue with me about the feedback that you're giving, eventually I'm going to give up because it's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
Right, but my friend always says this quote, and I don't know who it's by. I probably should look that up. But she says, "You never remember the words, but you remember how they made you feel." Right.
Maya
Angelou.
What the world, boy?
Sorry. Wow. So I feel like that's a perfect example of what you just said, Jayla. You never remember the actions, you never remember the specific words, but you definitely remember how they made you feel.
Yeah.
But if the
You know?
actions made you feel that way and you can't tell me the actions, how am I gonna fix them?
Because I feel like being able to tell a person every single instance of where they've done that is kind of tedious. And I'm like, who's kind of remembering that? But you can definitely remember, oh, Jayla made me feel like this
It's
at
a feeling.
you know?
Right.
Like, you're never going to forget how so-and-so made you feel. But you might forget how they did it, you know?
Yeah.
Or maybe that's just me. I don't know.
I agree because I think back with like the conversations I've had with Minnie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's this feeling that leaves me like I can't remember what you said, I can't remember what you did. Like I had a whole argument with like my cousin.
Mm-hmm.
We stopped talking for 4 months. And I'm like, what are we arguing for? It's like that feeling, you know what I mean? But it comes to a point when I think about this whole perception phenomenon. It comes to a point where you have to be the bigger person, or like even if the intention is wrong or even the perception is wrong, just apologize on both ends, on both sides. So I know I'm still working on it because I'm the type of person, I'm like, my intention might not be the way you're, perceiving it. And like, I tend to fight people with that. I'm like, no, bro, I didn't say that.
And I think that's really important though, because I think at the end of the day, we do kind of want some kind of progression from where you were before the situation. But I think it's very important for you to understand. So even if there is an instance where you feel you are justified in being cocky, quote unquote, I would still take the time to understand the other perspective, because that may not be the first time that we hear that. Oh, we're being cocky. And regardless of if it's true or not, you're being cocky, their feelings are still valid.
Right.
So at least with that person, it deserves to be checked, in my opinion.
Right. And I feel like that's a really, really valid point. But I feel like there's another side to this conversation that we haven't even talked about enough. And it's like, when you say people are so open to hear about all the trauma and all the bad things that are going on in your life, and there's just like a whole powwow, like, can we get into that? Like, why is that so, like, why is that, like, the thing?
Olympics.
Right. Like, why is that so accepted to just, like, bathe in sadness? And,
I mean, because sorrow loves company. It doesn't feel good. Nobody wants to be in that space. So it's cool. It makes you feel better when you're like, okay, everybody else can play in this pool with me. It's a different feeling when somebody's like, when you're in a space next to somebody who's like, look, let's go. There's money to be made. There's change to be made, right? Now it leaves you with a different feeling, a feeling that most people don't like. So that's what I'm saying. When you elevate and your mindset elevates, you can't hang around the same people. Because if you're still on the pity party that we were on in middle school or elementary school or in our past, and I elevated, I can't, we can't kick it anymore.
You know what's really crazy? But the thing is, people value that community so much that they will stay in the mud with the rest of them, knowing good and well their potential and what they have in them. Everybody's scared to be lonely. Right. And then on top of that, do you guys think that, I know it's a flex when you say everything that you have, but can it be the reverse? Is it ever a problem where I have it the worst, so look at me? It's like it's a battle between who has it worse.
The struggle.
That's disgusting.
It's the struggle Olympics, and I hate it. Don't use it.
I think that both are forms of attention seeking.
Yes,
they are.
Yes.
But
you know what's sad about it? The person who has the worst struggle will be like that first person who gets a job that you want to. So it's like, it's always these different spectrums, and when the struggle Olympics become apparent. I think we all can agree on, though, because what I'm hearing is that check yourself and check your space. That's just, that keeps replaying in my head, right? Even if you feel like, oh, everybody around me is tripping, at least you can do is check yourself. And I mean really check yourself, not, oh, I'm cool. No, like, dig deep. Have I changed? Have I been doing things that are not my normal character? And then if you are in a situation where, no, I'm legit, I just want to feel celebrated. Like, I just want to feel loved with my community, and the people around me are no longer conducive for, that type of energy. Now you got to check your space. You can't be in the same circles that you were in anymore.
I agree. And I feel like That was the perfect way to wrap that up, girl.
Like,
Always.
look
Come
at
on,
this.
Summery. Come on, Summery. Yeah. But yes, I feel like exactly what
Not
Jayla
the
said, and we can
difference.
all agree on that. So,
Yeah.
hey, season 2 is going to come with some heat.
Some more heat.
Some more heat. So make sure that you tune in next Wednesday for the next episode. 'Cause one thing about us, we gonna talk about it.
Look, think back to times I never had much to give, though I was in the center of appreciation from people that I had thought would never pay me no mind, but though it's different this time, your eyes go blind, and now you in the spot that you've been trying to find. I never imagined happiness in my position broke, fantasize about the cash flows, it was my way to cope. Mama never had no money for the toy I wanted from the store, had to live